Hey guys, so today I'm making this video with a new setup. It's my iPhone and the giant ring light right behind it. I hope this works out. And I wanted to go over the biggest thing. A lot of people have always asked me, why am I in sales and why do a lot of people, including the parents and family members, discourage you from getting into sales rather than taking a nice, consistently paying salary job? So number one, the biggest thing is that it's very inconsistent depending on how inconsistent you are. That's what I would have to say. When it comes to inconsistency, it all comes down to you. So the biggest thing is that a lot of people shy and tend to not go the sales route specifically because the amount of consistency you have to provide your work on a day-to-day basis, whether it's from making the calls or showing up and seeing the client, or whether you're selling real estate or car sales, whatever it is, you have to be so consistent so that way you can determine what your paycheck is going to be by the end of the week, the end of the month. Otherwise, you'll never really know. I've seen so many people, and I've done car sales, by the way, whether it's car sales, real estate sales, or any sort of sales job like right over the phone, which is what I do now, is cold calling. Is with that, I've seen people make $20,000, $30,000 in 1 month, and then the next month they make zero, absolutely nothing. And what it comes down to is their work ethic, their consistency, how determined they are, and what they're actually looking to achieve. Sometimes if you make a bit of money, let's just say you made $20,000 this week, then next week you might not make another $20,000 because maybe you get a little comfortable, or maybe you tend to celebrate a little bit that, hey, I already made $20,000 for the month, I don't need to keep making more calls, or whatever the reason is. It comes down to you and who you are, right? So that's the number one thing, is the inconsistency, but once again, that can be handled, and it comes down to you being responsible to do what needs to be done for you and your paycheck's sake. And that could even come down to whoever else you're providing for. So always be aware, whenever you start to slack a bit, it comes down to you are putting not only yourself and your future at risk if you're looking to build up some money to buy a house, or to buy a car, or to just celebrate, or whatever you want to do with the money, or even to grow a family. You're putting all that at risk once you start to slack, and that's where the inconsistency tends to take place. The second reason, the biggest thing that I would say a lot of people see, is that in a regular job that pays you, let's just say, $48,000 for the year, which is $4,000 a month, you can very easily determine how much money you can spend for the week, for the day, for the month, versus when you have a sales job. So when you have a regular salary job, it's very easy to understand that, hey, if I have $4,000 coming in, and mind you, this is pre-tax, after tax, I live in New York. So if you're in New York, you're probably going to net maybe 2,500 of that, right? So 2,500, you know how much you can spend on rent, your car payment, your insurance payment, gas going out, your phone payment. And even if you can make some of these payments, sometimes it's really hard to do that. But then again, at least you know how much is coming in, so how much you can spend is already determined, right? So that's the biggest thing with getting a regular salary job. Whether it's even $250,000, you're still limited to that $250,000 for the year, unless you have some sort of bonuses or commission structure on top of the salaried amount. But once again, that goes into sales. Let's just say the average person that's looking to get a sales job versus a salary job, you can be looking at getting a salary job between $25,000, $30,000 a year, all the way to, call it $250,000 a year, right? That's on the higher side anyways. So with that being said, the consistency of a job may be so much more appealing and attractive to you because you can slack off, you can take a day off and to be sick or whatever you need, and it doesn't affect your salary. At least maybe it will in the long run, but right away it does not. So, and when I say long run, I mean if you take off too many sick days or if you slack off too much, you might get fired or let go of, from your job. So obviously that's one thing to definitely take into consideration as well. The third thing is stress. That's another reason why people tend to shy away from, I should say, from getting a sales job, is the amount of stress that's put onto you. And it's not something to look at lightly, because at the end of the day, it can, depending on how you view it and your perception on the sales job, what you're doing, it can be a lot of stress. But to me, the way I look at it, the way I perceive it is, hey, each time I go to sell somebody, it's kind of like a game that you get to play. And a lot of people that are in sales already understand this, is like, hey, the thrill and the energy that it takes to close one deal or to close a client is so exhilarating. Like, the highs are so high, but then again, when you don't sell and you have nothing coming in, the lows are very low. So it's kind of like a hit or miss. There's not much in between unless you close a few deals or whatever the case is. But in general, your goal is obviously like, hey, if you were able to make $5,000 in this month, next month you should be able to hit $5,000 minimum. It should never go downwards. And if it does go downwards, you know why it went downwards. It has to be something to do with your production, most likely. In reality, the reason why I say it's something to do with you is at least you have something to control, and you can at least assess the situation, how you can take responsibility for it. Because the more responsibility you can take for it, the better you'll be able to control your circumstances. And the more you're able to control your circumstances, the more you're able to actually do something about it. When you kind of give it up to, let's just say, hey, there's not a lot of people buying right now for X, whatever the reason is, you kind of are letting go of you're letting the world decide your faith, right? Rather than you being able to put together the reasons why you were the one that was not able to succeed for whatever reason. So always take that into consideration as, hey, how can I take responsibility for my performance for this month? Another reason why people will stop you from becoming a salesperson, no matter what the industry is because of their limiting beliefs. Don't let someone else's limiting beliefs stop you from achieving what you want to achieve. A lot of times, the reason why they want to stop you is because they think that because it didn't work for them, it's not going to work for you. And it might be coming out of good faith and good heart, but then again, be aware, don't let someone else stop you from doing what you want to do, no matter what it is in life. But when it comes to sales, remember that everything, once again, comes down to you. So enjoy it. You gotta go into it with the right mindset. Don't go into it with thinking that it's not gonna work out, because if you think that, if you believe that, that's what will happen to you. I'm a very strong believer when it comes into bringing what you desire and what you believe into reality. So if you can think it up here, you can have it in this real world as well. As long as you work towards it and you put in your time, your energy, your effort. Think about it. At one point in time, people used to say it as a joke. Yeah, if only, the man could get to the moon, or hypothetically, yeah, go fly to the moon and come back. But now, with history, obviously, now we're able to go to the moon and come back. Like, it happens all the time. But at one point in time, back in like the 1800s, I guarantee you, people used to say that and never used to believe it. But now it is possible. So, I mean, if somebody could go to the moon and come back, why can't you be on track to make more than $100,000 in your first year in sales? Think about it. It's all in your mind. It's all perception. Another reason that people might discourage you from getting into sales is the idea of living your life as soon as it hits 4 p.m. I know a lot of people that have a job, and as soon as it hits 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., whatever time they get off, they don't want to deal with anything to do with their job or with work at all. And they just want that time to themselves or their family, their kids, whatever the case is, or they want to enjoy life, quote unquote. If you want to enjoy life, and my belief, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, having a job. I just believe that if you want to enjoy life and you desire to live your best life possible, you might have to put in more work to get what you actually want, because at the end of the day, this world does run on money, and that's the economy runs on money. You need money to do anything, right? Not to make you happy. I mean, it can add to your happiness, but you do need money to do anything you want. So for example, like even eating food, you gotta pay for it. You want water, you gotta go pay for it. You want a laptop, you gotta pay for it. Anything. So if you want to travel and you enjoy that, right? Maybe the money you make through sales will lead to you traveling more. Like for example, I take a vacation before this whole coronavirus COVID stuff started. I was on track to do one trip every month of the year for this year. And actually just in the last few months alone, thank God I already got tested for COVID, none of that. But I have gone on 4 trips now. I went to Miami, went to Houston, I'm going to Atlantic City tomorrow, and then also I went to Cancun with my team, and we sold some deals from Cancun as well. I've sold a deal when I was on the trip to Miami as well as for Houston. So you could travel, do whatever you want, and don't let anybody discourage you or let you think otherwise as to if this is the right thing for you or not. The only way you will find out is by taking that leap and trying it for yourself. There's a saying that in order for you to fly, you need to jump off the cliff, right? So you got to take that leap of faith and believe in yourself and go for it strong-heartedly and never doubt yourself. Just to give you guys an idea, when I first got into sales, I didn't truly believe or know that I could do it, but the only way I found out was by getting into it. So when I first got into sales, the first thing that I ever did was I joined a car dealership. It was a Atlantic Lexus, a Lexus of 110. And if you guys are familiar with New York, that's where I was. And the story goes like this. Within my first 3 months, I was a top sales rep. And I'll tell you exactly how that happened. Before even joining or like going to the dealership, I saw it was like one of the most beautiful looking buildings, brand new $20 million facility. And when I went there, I walked straight in, spoke to a receptionist and asked her, hey, I need to speak to one of the sales managers. Are they around? The sales manager comes over, and as he's coming over, I start to basically sell him as to why he should give me the job and how I'm going to become the top sales rep within my 3rd month. And he looked at me a little funny, but after some convincing, after selling him for a little bit, he was sold on at least giving me a shot. And he told me, he brought me into his office. He's like, hey, listen, just fill out the application. It's online. You can do it. Once you complete it, give me a call and we'll take it from there. And I said, hey, you know what? Better yet, I have my laptop in my car. Why don't I go grab it? I'll bring it back. We'll do the application together right now and we can proceed. And he looked at me, he kind of stopped, and he's just like, he thought about it for a second. It's like, okay, all right, grab your laptop. I go to grab my laptop, I'm coming back in, I'm dressed in a beautiful like blue suit, tie, fully dressed, the proper way you should be dressed. And a lot of things go into first impressions, and one of the things you never want to slack on is, your attire, especially if it's an in-person type of sales job. Right? For example, for this, I wear hoodies all the time, right? Because I'm sitting and just, doing everything right over the phone. So it's a lot easier now. I don't have to really be in person, but I do tend to wear suits sometimes whenever I do like go to the office or anything else like that, or go out in the public, any sort of event or any nighttime evening event, always I'm wearing a suit. So I walk into the dealership. I'm coming back in with my laptop this time. And as I'm walking in, he goes, I sit down and he brings in the GM, the general manager, and the general manager starts to ask me questions, and he's a little skeptical and he doesn't really like me. And I'm like, hey, you know what? I understand. I acknowledged it. First thing I did was, hey, I understand that, I'm making a big claim, but at the end of the day, if you give me a shot, I'll make sure that I'll do whatever it takes to prove my point and to prove you wrong if you doubt me. So long story short, what happened was, in my first month after training, I sold 13 cars, which in a luxury car dealership, that's a high number. Anything over 10 is a high number. So I came in 3rd place. I had the highest, I was in the top 3 for the most amount of gross profit made on the front end as well as I had customers hugging me and thanking me after I sold them. So they had such a great experience and they loved it. The price was very worth it to them. And on top of that, I was in the top 3 my first month. The second month I was in second place. And by the third month, I had sold 16 cars in my third month with the highest amount of gross profit in the front end. And on the last day, in order to come in first place, I had to sell 4 cars. I'm sorry. I sold 4 cars in my last day. I was at 12 on the last day. And when we went into the sales morning meeting, one of the kids was, he was 1 car ahead of me. He's like, I'll never forget this. He told me that I told you, like I knew it. I wasn't gonna let you beat me this time. And this was one kid I didn't really kind of like, but I was like, yeah, no, I'm honestly happy for you. I'm happy that you sold 13 cars because that doesn't take away from my production. How much ever you sell has nothing to do with how much ever I sell. But congratulations, happy for you. And whatever happens, happens. And then I went into the day. I called back so many people, and these are people from even a couple of weeks back, and even people from yesterday. And then I had a couple of new, I sold 2 cars that were brand new for the same day. I sold 2 people. And at the same time, I had 2 come back from the previous day or the previous week. I forget now, it's been a few years, but when they came in, my sales manager helped me out. He sold one of them on the price while I sold them on coming in. Once he sold them on price, obviously then I took care of the paperwork. But point is that never let anyone else doubt you or to make you feel like you can't achieve something because they couldn't. And I still remember even when my cousins told me when I was getting into the car industry that, be realistic. You're not going to sell 10 cars in your first month. I didn't believe them. And the reason why I didn't is because I had more faith in me than they did in themselves. And I surpassed those numbers. And within my first 3-4 months, I was on track for making more than between $112,000 and $120,000 for the year. My first month and my first 3 months, my first year. And that was when I was only 21 years old, 21, 22 years old, around there. And yeah, so I figured, hey, if I could do this much in my first year in sales, then imagine if I'm able to get into a bigger industry or something bigger, where how much more I can possibly sell if I was able to achieve this here. And that is what I'm doing now. And now those numbers seem, like baby steps to me. Not to brag or anything like that, but just to give you an idea, there's no limitations ever in sales. Everything is sales. Like even, the Apple iPhone, right? I mean, Microsoft, everything they're doing is selling, whether it looks like it or not, but everything runs on sales. So if you can sell, you will always have a job, an opportunity, and a way to make money for you and your family and support yourself and whoever else you support. So keep that in mind. I hope this video finds you guys well. And I hope you guys learned something from it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything, comment below, and I'll make sure to do my best to respond to every single comment. I always do that. And looking forward to anything you guys have to say. And remember, like, subscribe, and hit that like button. Hit that like button and the notification. If you turn those on, you'll get all my videos. And don't forget, always believe in yourself. Don't let anyone else decide your fate and your future. All right? God bless.